the story of Jacob and Esav. As we all know, the majority of Edom is many of the European nations, not the Arabs, by the way. It could be Arab mixes. The representation of America, any Americans, Edom. Okay, to the story of Yakov and Esav, Jacob and Esav. According to the Bible, when Isaac wanted to bless his older son, Esav, and afterwards at some point to give Jacob the blessing that was reserved for Jacob, which is not for the firstborn. The blessing belonged to the firstborn. And Esav, as we know, fought with Jacob fighting with Esav in the womb, as the Torah teaches. So Esav basically, as the Torah says, was fighting with Jacob before being born, and came out first and did something that would have left Jacob eventually dead inside of the womb. So Jacob held on to Esav's heel. As they pulled Esav out, Jacob came out too. I wonder why the Bible, the Torah, says Yakov and Esav, not Esav and Yakov. So the story of Yakov and Esav, as exampled in Torah Sheba'al Peh, which is the oral Torah, which explains the written Torah, which is the extraction. The written Torah is more like the setup, the oral Torah is more like the extraction. So you know exactly what's in there. And mind you, Yaakov and Esav were twins. And Yaakov, as the Torah says, was supposed to be the firstborn son. And basically, Esav tried to kill Yaakov in the womb to come out first because of the fruits that Yaakov's reward reaped as the firstborn son. You could sense it. You could sense it. So basically, if Yaakov didn't grab onto the heel of Esav, which is basically judged Jewish people so much that nowadays it's as if Yaakov is still holding on to the heel of Esav just to make a way to live. So Esav desired to steal Yaakov's spot, his place in life, and his blessings. So the firstborn became Esav, but mind you, the Bible speaks of it as Yakov and Esav. Keep that in mind. I'm going to get into Genesis, where Isaac wanted to bless, as it says, his older son Esav to go out, hunt game, etc., and make him the food he loves, as Esav usually did for his father, so that he can give him the blessing in the midst of God's presence in a full heart. Esav's food was so good that as a joke he would tell his father Isaac to rise up for the food. And Isaac would rise up, it wouldn't live in him. That's how he honored his father, the way every Jew should honor their father. Now, basically the mother, Rebecca, Isaac's wife, heard what Isaac said to Esav. And knowing what kind of a man her son Esav is, very bad man, murderer, adulterer, a rapist, all kinds of things. She basically knew that this blessing might very much empower Esav to do lots of bad things, including to the descendants of Jacob later on. And so she told Jacob to dress in Esav's garments and to wear certain things that make up his brother's hairiness, for example, other things, so that, etc. Isaac, who was partially blind, would feel, just to make sure, because I can tell from simple perspective that he must have felt how crucial this blessing to the right person is. So Rebecca, knowing what Isaac told his son Esav to do, made the delicacies for her husband Isaac, just as Esav would, and told Jacob to go and take the blessing intended for the firstborn, for Jacob, because knowing her son Esav is a wicked man, an adulterer, murderer, etc., 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 which after this blessing, why the Torah says is a rule that Esav hates Jacob, hates Yakov, and tries to kill Yakov in every generation, in the hand of God, which saves it, because the descendants of Yakov are judged to a very, 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 very high degree in anything, which is almost agreeable, except for the fact that descendants of Esav, Yishmael as well, try to bring Israel to massive temptations to commit sins and then take advantage of this area. So it's not agreeable at all. So, so Jacob basically did what his mother said, knowing that the blessing was rightfully his. Sure, maybe it was attained the wrong way, which I'll get into later on. I mean, there is a difference between right and wrong when something's intended for one person and the wrong person at the time goes and gets it. Maybe there's a twist to this. I'll get into it. See what I mean? So, by the way, Jacob, knowing his brother Esav, would not have been anything if he was not known as the brother of Jacob. So go figure. Supposed to be the firstborn. He got his firstborn birthright status, whatever. So Jacob listened to his mother, thinking it's the right thing. She said so. It's intended for him. But maybe he didn't think about, is this the right way or the wrong way? Maybe something would have came out differently. So Jacob came and said to his father, where he's wearing Esav's garments, his clothes, and all the other things, which made his hands seem hairy, etc. And he said to his father, I am Esav, your firstborn, etc. So Isaac got up, noticed that this felt right, who he's giving the blessing to. And by the way, this whole blessing thing is where the whole anti-Semitic thing comes from Edom, which the whole world seems to keep following their lead for some reason. We'll get into that a little later too. So yeah, that's the thing. And so he gave he gave Jacob the blessing. After he ate, he was ready to bestow the blessing on Yakov, which is Jacob, for anyone who doesn't know. Now the blessing given to Yakov is the following. It has its meanings, by the way. It's given in such a discreet way because the extraction to whatever this means is very heavenly, so to say. Very powerful. So the blessing is, here it goes. And may God give you of the dew of the heavens and of the fatness of the earth and abundant grain and wine. Peoples will serve you and regimes will prostrate themselves to you. Be a lord to your kinsmen, and your mother's sons will prostrate themselves to you. Cursed be they who curse you, and blessed be they who bless you. So this blessing is given in the heavenly form. The blessing that Esav received, by the way, was given more, you could say, as I've heard, on a natural side, which is different as well. By the way, Israel has lacked one thing throughout history, is they should as well learn to be with the extraction of the blessing that Esav got, because he was going to give that blessing to Yakov. And the descendants of Yosef, which I'm sure Yosef was very aware of when his father told him the story. I'm sure he thought and dug in, which made him know what Esav was about, wasn't afraid of him, stood in front of his mother, etc., etc. And the majority of Israel, by the way, today is Yosef's descendants. Everyone's younger brother from the mother that Yaakov favored. Israel, which was the second name, the additional name, the upgrade, in the spiritual sense, in his heart, favored Leah, because that was a spiritual mission. Now, descendants of Yosef, Israel, from what I know, the blessing that Esav got, which was intended for Yaakov, are the most closest to living out. We'll get into that later, which is good. Now, Esav came from his hunt and put together the delicacies. He came to ask for blessing. So he comes and says of his father's, so that his soul is ready to bless him. Isaac said, "Who are you?" Thinking maybe it's Yaakov. Esav said, "I am Esav, your firstborn." Isaac's like, he said, in other words, "Where is the one who I partook of game from when you had not yet come, and I blessed him?" And then he said, "Indeed, he shall remain blessed," said Isaac, "of whoever he blessed, because it felt so right and so heavenly," as the Torah explains in the oral Torah, Torah Sheba'al Peh, just how worthy Yaakov was, and he hit the jackpot, knowing that's who I wanted to give a blessing to the whole time. Let's just say Esav was different to everyone else, except to his father, Isaac. Now, indeed he shall remain blessed, said Isaac. Why? Because it rightfully belongs to him somehow. He finally understood Esav is not the Esav that he was to his father only. Jacob was Jacob to everyone and to his father. Sure, he might not have honored his father as best, as greatly as Esav did, which is praiseworthy of Esav. Esav heard what his father said, "Indeed he shall remain blessed," and he cried out an exceedingly great and bitter cry, as the Torah says, and he said, "Bless me too, father." He said, Isaac replies to him, Isaac said, "Your brother came with cleverness and took your blessing." Then Esav said, "Have you not reserved the blessing for me?" Remember this. Then Esav said, have you not reserved a blessing for me? The Torah explains, he was asking, did you not reserve a blessing for Jacob as well? To basically have the blessing that was reserved for Jacob. He wants to take your place, Yaakov. Esav said to his father, have you but one blessing, father? Bless me too, father. And as the Torah says, Esav raised his voice and wept. So Isaac blesses Esav now, which was going to be for Yaakov when the time was right to give that blessing to the right person. The blessing goes as follows. Behold, of the fatness of the earth shall be your dwelling, and of the dew of the heavens from above, by your sword you shall live. But your brother you shall serve. Yet it shall be that when you are aggrieved, you may cast off his yoke from upon your neck. What does this mean? The Torah teaches, if Israel is not worthy as a nation, not talking in the singular, maybe many worthy men, but Torah means, Torah says, if Israel is not worthy as a nation of receiving this blessing that Isaac gave to Jacob, not the one that Isaac gave to Esav, but that Isaac gave to Jacob, then the descendants of Esav get this blessing. Everything that Isaac said, indeed he shall remain blessed. He didn't say he'll take it back. He didn't even curse him. He didn't curse Yaakov, his son. So, if Israel is not worthy as a nation, the descendants of Esav gets this blessing that was given to Yaakov, not the one that was given to Esav. Why did Isaac put in this stipulation? The giver of these blessings, after he blessed them, or maybe not after he blessed them, only on Esav's side, mind you, if Yaakov's descendants are unworthy, just to calm Esav down inside because of his jealous, envious feelings, and would end up making Esav commit suicide. Take my word for it. I know Edom very well. Crybabies. So, if Israel is unworthy, then this blessing that Isaac gave to Jacob, his son, goes to Esav. So Esav could take advantage of both blessings, which is a hell of a combo, if you think about it. How about this? As God is watching right now, I think I can say on behalf of all of the Jewish nation, my friend, I have a question for you. Since this whole time, Edom has had the advantage over any of Israel's screw-ups. How about for a change for once? I mean, since they have taken full advantage, it suddenly could become a matter of life or death. My prayer here on video to you, God, is, how about if the descendants of Esav are unworthy to receive the blessing that Isaac gave to Esav? You hand it over to Israel. If Israel is unworthy, then the yoke could be casted off of Esav's neck as well. Then they have that blessing. If it's best, of course, God. Amen. Now, something I want to say. I want to explain the blessing a little bit of the one that Esav got. Call it Esav's blessing. The one that, by the way, Yakov didn't cry about, saying, Dad, you reserved the blessing for me as well. You gave it to Esav instead of me. Okay. One hell of a blessing too. So I'm going to get into explaining the blessing that Esav received from Isaac a little bit. From what I learned just a little bit. But it makes all the sense in the world. In ways it's self-explanatory. So the blessing that was reserved for Yaakov, which Jewish people, Israel, should really pay attention to, is something that was going to be given, reserved, mind you, for Yaakov, our ancestor, one of the forefathers. The blessing that Isaac gave to Esav, which was reserved, which was going to give to Yaakov. Now, this is more of natural means. The blessing that Isaac gave to Jacob is to be taken care of via heavenly means, through the forces of spirituality, you could say. Esav's is more natural, in the world globally, more physical, more material, which they don't use anyway. They don't know how. One of them is to, by the sword you shall live, which is be very highly advanced in weaponry, which Israel currently is, which is good. The descendants of Yosef did a great job. My hat goes out to you. What has the Roman Empire, for example, which descends from Esav, achieved? The Roman Empire speaks for itself. Being a superpower at times, a lot of the time in this world. High in rank, high in weaponry, the masters of the physical world in many ways. Yaakov was supposed to master both the physical and the spiritual. Who says Yaakov reached his full potential too? He didn't. So did Esav. So far, Yaakov's descendants have been judged for it. Esav's descendants, not at all. And yet they still hire Yishmael as a hitman, descendants of Yishmael, for Israel, supply them with lots of money. Israel is supposed to have this kind of pull. Descendants of Yaakov, with his blessing, would have had lots of money, power of the material. Instead, Edom squanders it all on lots of perversion. And Yishmael, the Arab nations who descend from Yishmael, have everybody's money at this point, and the world doesn't even know it. It's time to make up for Yaakov. It's time to be Israel. End of discussion. World superpower globally. Edom. The world follows their lead. They seem like more masters of the physical world than do the Jewish people. Well, I'll say, not all Jewish people. Not the wise of Israel, mind you. Not over me. Not over many Jews who are men of God. So, Jewish people should strive, whatever this blessing means, maybe to go learn about it, know what it is, to attain and equal and go beyond measures of whatever this blessing that was intended, reserved for Yaakov, that he blessed Esav with, because Yaakov got the blessing that Isaac wanted to give to Esav, that he wanted to give to his firstborn. When you do this, you learn to be like Yosef. Gotta look up to Israel nowadays. They have weapons which tower over America's weapons. That's why they don't take the whole Palestinian Arabic situation too seriously. They just think they'll handle it whenever they could. But what if God suddenly gets fed up with this almost arrogant lifestyle? What if it's go-go-muggo due to the result of this unacceptable attitude, making all Jews look bad when you can destroy your enemies' regimes easily, then you don't. And you laugh at this shit behind the scenes. So, going on, all of Israel should equal the blessing that Esav got from Isaac, because he wanted to give it to Yaakov, but he didn't think too fast, because he was in there sitting with a deceiver, a liar, a wicked man, and he speedily, without thinking, gave him the blessing that was intended for Yaakov. So, anyway, Rebekah, the mother of Jacob and Esav, overheard the words Esav said that he would like his father to die so he could then kill Yaakov, his brother. He respected his father enough to wait for his father's death so that he could finally go after his brother Yaakov, who could whoop his ass any time of the day anyways. So he said, "May the days of the mourning for my father draw near. Then I will kill my brother Esav. Then I will kill my brother Jacob," said Esav. Jacob, you should have just went after him. Rebekah told Jacob to please leave. Rebekah told Jacob to please leave until Esav, your brother's wrath subsides, until your brother's anger against you subsides, and he forgets what you have done to him, quoting the Bible. Well, it's more like this. Somebody's out to go after you and kill you. You don't go somewhere else like most Jews stupidly do in many ways. Bad habits die hard, don't they, huh? Yaakov should have tried to kill Esav in self-defense in order, instead of letting a woman take control of a situation, which no man ever does. He's not a man once he does that. And show him who his big brother is. Beat his ass until he realizes who made him. Jacob could beat Esav easily. I'm your big brother. Esav, you want your blessing? Come get it. I got your blessing right here. One love. Jacob listened to his mother when Esav saw that Isaac blessed Jacob and sent him off with blessing. Esav decided to get Mahalat, as the Torah says, the daughter of Yishmael, welcome to the joining of Esav and Yishmael. He got her as a wife for a reason. Torah says it right after that. What does it have to do with anything, right? Way to counter Yaakov's next step to life, to living, formally, officially. So, the joining, as the Torah says, of Esav and Yishmael, which is the Erev Rav, the joining of Esav and Yishmael is the Erev Rav. Welcome to the joining of Esav and Yishmael. This is to prevent the redemption and to break Israel down and destroy Israel, who holds the mission of God to reaching one's full potential in life. A nation of God, a nation under God, a nation of God is Israel, the holy supreme nation. Act like it, schmucks. Thank you. The schmucks part is a joke, by the way. God gave Yakov an additional name, Israel. So there's two names, Yakov and Israel. Israel, which is of his spiritual mission, who we all descend from, the mission of this physical world becoming spiritual is what it concludes to. Of course, to its full potential. Is Israel supposed to reach? Then all the other nations join in. Israel does its job. The job gets done everywhere else, including in Israel. So, Israel, which is a spiritual mission we all descend from, Yaakov's additional name, the upgraded name, as I call it, the mission of this physical world becoming spiritual. Esav hates Yaakov and tries to kill him in every generation, as the Torah teaches. Yishmaelim, the descendants of Yishmael, which is what it means, hate the upgrade which Yaakov received from for his descendants as well, the upgrade to that of Israel. Yishmaelim try to destroy the soul of which represents that of Israel's mission, the Jewish people. Esav tries to kill Yaakov's key areas, which manifests in the soul, which is all spiritual regardlessly, to earning up to the point of Israel, the upgraded additional name, to prevent Israel's hard work from manifesting physically, is what Esav is about to Yaakov, to Yaakov's descendants. What paves the way for the coming of Mashiach? When Edom burns to the descendants of Yosef, as the Torah says, will happen. Gog uMagog. When the Yishmaelite kingdom will be destroyed as well, who are mostly the source of today's day and age, causing all these problems. Amalekite mix, mind you, as well. Who are mostly living in Israel today? The descendants of our younger brother, Yosef, in majority. Yosef has the firstborn, or should I say, birthright status, to that of Yaakov. Judah, Yehuda, is all of Israel's older brother, regardlessly of who the older one is of all 12 tribes. He'd whoop your ass if you don't agree. Was that cool? The same approach should be taken in regards of anyone in the world, in the right means, as well as the descendants of Esav, if they're wrong, the right way. Being cool like Yehuda is what represents Israel's spiritual mission. The joining of Esav and Yishmael is the Erev Rav. All of what is wicked. The wicked is the manifestation of the joining of Esav and Yishmael. The Erev Rav equals is the wicked. Divide and conquer. Esav together with Yishmael combining equals the intention to prevent Israel from manifesting its spiritual produce of its mission and to manifesting physically, combined with the destruction of Israel spiritually via physical and spiritual means, every which way to tear down everyone's temple. That's why Israel accepted the spiritual mission, who once descended from Gentiles, to accepting the Torah, the instruction, and becoming the Jewish people, the holy supreme nation, in all seriousness. Now, Edom, you're going down. When all the smoke clears, Edom is done. That's what the Torah says. It means the kingdom of Edom is done. No more perversion is the point. Edom, when all the smoke clears, it's over. Yishmael, you're next.